all the lobbyists, all of those who have given testimony, often they are invited inside. And when we go to the event that we're waiting for in just a few moments, of the signing of the MU Arena, we can expect inside lots of important people, familiar faces from the University of Missouri system, including UM President Manuel Pochenko and MU Chancellor Richard Wallace. Bob Ballou is down at the NBC 8 Sports Center. And Bob, of course, along with his colleague Chris Trevino, our sports director, have been following this story, as we have in the news department as well. And Bob, we might bring you in and ask you a question while we're waiting for that to take place. I'm trying to make sure that that can happen. Is there a camera over there on you? Indeed, there is. Very good. Hey, one question I have while we're waiting, Bob. Bill Lorry's got to put up the $25 million. We can say Bill Lorry's name. It's not official yet, but I guess we can say it. We were waiting to find out if the governor actually had this private conversation with Bill Lorry, which was probably supposed to have taken place before this morning. Do you know if that happened?
I do not know that. I do know that the report came out of the Columbia Daily Tribune saying that Bill Lorry was the anonymous donor. Of course, the bill we're talking about, the Missouri Arena bill, whether it will pass or not, Governor Holden made his decision. Of course, we don't know what that is quite yet. It should be one of the last bills that he'll sign as this goes on.
Being one of our crack sports reporters and the assistant sports director over there, what's the impact of this arena going to have to the community?
Well, obviously, it does a lot of things. It can bring more games in, more events in for Missouri, for the state. Generates money, but at the same time, it'll really do a lot of things, to be honest with you. Missouri, I think, would be very excited. Obviously, Tiger fans are hoping that the arena passes. A lot of opposition against it, of course. When it all started, it started with Chuck Graham and went through the House. Passed the House, somewhat surprising to many. Then it went through the Senate, and it got through the Senate as well. Bill Kinney, the major factor there, trying to decide whether he was going to let it go through or not. Finally decided he would, and now it is in Governor Holden's hands.
Okay, we do have some video of what the inside of that new arena is going to look like. We might roll those pictures here in just a moment. As you've talked to people in the MU athletic department, they must be pretty excited. This is a pretty impressive complex.
Very impressive complex. Obviously, as you look at it right here, you'll see some incredible animations, fans, players inside this. The Hearn Center needs renovation, if nothing else, and this arena obviously takes care of that. A lot of the discussion that goes along with this is Title IX, of course. Title IX, a lot about women's sports and how to create more positions there. But also, Bill, I really think that this will do a lot for the success of Title IX.
And indeed, will that allow then the Hearn Center to be used from some other sports, so that there's more room there basically for all the practices and the plays to go on?
Right, and the volleyball team and the track and field team has the upstairs as well, so that'll help them out as well.
Okay, now tell us a little bit more about Bill Lorry. We know he owns Page Sports Entertainment. He owns the St. Louis Blues. What else does he own?
Well, you know, he resides here in Columbia, and he owns the Blues. He does a lot. Obviously with St. Louis. He tried to get an NBA franchise at one point. That didn't go through for him. Tried to buy the Colorado Avalanche, as you may well remember back, and tried to buy the Pepsi Center along with the Denver Nuggets. That fell through as well, and Stanley Kroenke ended up with them. Obviously, the Avalanche went on to beat the Blues this year in the Western Conference Finals. But Bill Lorry, the $25 million, obviously the anonymous donation as for now, but nothing official on that, obviously.
Some of the citizens who have been against this are saying, you know, this is high-priced sports and it's an event for people who can pay the ticket. What about the opportunity for the average taxpayer who's going to fund that new arena to be able to get in there and see a game? Has there been any discussion with Mike Alden in the athletic department? There'd be a game that would be basically not a giveaway game, but a game that would be more reasonably cost for people to see?
Not that I have heard of, Bill. Obviously, this has been a specialty bill since it came in to the Senate, and everything. It's really gone through very quickly, and I haven't heard anything from Mike Alden about a giveaway game or anything.
Well, it's probably not actually a giveaway game, but maybe some discussion of reducing those prices a little bit, you know, for some of the taxpayers who might be paying for this. Well, we will take another look live inside the governor's office, where your colleague Chris Trevino is there, Bob. He can't talk to us right now because if he did, we wouldn't be able to hear what the governor's doing. But you can see they're about to change directions here because the people from the previous bill signing ceremony are moving out, And the folks that are moving in are those who are involved in MU Life Sciences. And so when that gets ready to go, we're going to listen in and hear as that takes place. This would be a brand new life science center where MU will receive about $30 million in federal funds for the Life Sciences Center. That would be matching the money that the state would be donating to that building. And that is probably an important move politically for the governor to do in terms of balancing athletics and academics in higher education in this state right here in his own backyard. Actually, we're told now that they're going to take a break, probably because they want to move President Porchenko and Chancellor Wallace in there. So at this stage, I believe we're going to send it back, ask you to stand by there, Bob, and send it back to Paul.
All right, we're
In the bottom of the... Talk about...
So Harry Ballou made some sports news today, right?
Well, we'll get to that later. But first we got Cardinals baseball to start.
All right.
Oh, Jim. You've seen relief pitchers loosen up in the bullpen prior to entering a game. You've just probably never seen the serious danger therein. Mike Timlin was stretching and squatting to prepare himself for a relief appearance and tore cartilage in his knee. He had surgery today and will miss 4 to 6 weeks. That's the bad news. I promise good news is coming, though. And the trial is scheduled to begin on Monday. Finally, yes, Jim, congratulations to Harry Ballou, that's Dad to me, for hitting his second career hole-in-one today. I've still never beaten him or hit an ace. Jim and Beth, it kind of makes you a little jealous, doesn't it?
Thank you very much, Bob.
It
You could change the lives of women on welfare.
This weekend.
Take the sand out of your shoes and get to Garfield's for Baja Bash.
Let's see, this year he's averaging a strikeout about every other time to the plate.
It might be a little more than that. Pretty bad, but he's gone. So if you're a Cardinal fan, you got to be pretty happy about that. Ray Lankford took a leave of absence from his Cardinal teammates Tuesday to go to Cali. After he was traded today, he'll have to come back to the Lou to pack his bags. Then he'll go back to Cali. He's going back to Cali to play for San Diego. Lankford waived his no-trade clause earlier this week, and that pleases Cardinal fans. Lankford had hit-hard 105 times this year. It seemed all too common. The man St. Louis gets in return will hopefully hit-ha, that means strikeout. A lot of opposing batters, if you could see the motion, you know what I was doing. Woody Williams from the Padres. The righty's 8-8 with a 4.97 ERA in 23 starts. The Lankford-less Cardinals will take on Atlanta. In Game 3 of their series, Bud Smith tries to help the Lou sweep the Atlanta. The last 5 starts have treated Jeff Suppan like Michael Jackson. Bad. But he has won 2 of 3 against the White Sox. That's something. Last night, rookie Chris George got his second start, but lasted just 3 innings, giving up 6 hits, 2 homers, both to that man, Jose Canseco, and 5 runs overall. The Royals fell 7-6, but tonight get to take on Kip Wells, who has won just 1 in his last 4 starts and has already lost to KC once this season. Minnesota Viking Pro Bowl tackle Corey Stringer's death caused Paul Tagliabue to ask each NFL team to reevaluate their training camp methods and schedules. Stringer died early Wednesday morning of complications from a heat stroke, and today the Vikings returned to practice, a practice which nobody skipped. The team did cancel a scrimmage they had scheduled for Monday with Kansas City so they can attend Stringer's funeral.
In this phase, this morning phase until Tuesday, I've always felt there's a way to deal with grief and a way to deal with mourning, and we will be in that phase until Corey's laid to rest on Monday.
Houston, we have issues. The Dream is a big, ugly dinosaur-like creature, and the Rockets are not of red glare for now. Today, the Houston Rockets signed and traded longtime center Hakeem Olajuwon to the Toronto Raptors for a first-round pick and a second-round pick specified at a later date. The trade is only awaiting approval from the commish, and Hakeem the Dream's deal is reportedly worth $16.7 million over 3 years. Finally, the coaches' preseason football poll is out, and Florida is number 1. 4 Big 12 schools are in the top 11. OU is 3rd, Nebraska 4, Texas 6, and Kansas State 11. Mizzou received no votes, but believe it or not, plays game number 1 in the Gary Pinkel era in almost exactly 30 days. Jim and Jamie?
Thanks.
Bob, daughter Joey, what is this?
And now here's a pitch to sports.
What do you say to that? I don't know. All right, this is a pitch to sports. Not again. Just a week and 2 days before the Missouri Tigers head to Mexico for the start of football camp, it happened again. Another break on the body of MU starting quarterback Kirk Farmer. Farmer broke the bone between the pinky and the wrist on his right hand, which so happens to be his throwing hand. And the incident occurred late last night. Farmer checked into University Hospital and was released at 3:55 a.m. this morning, but surgery is not required. He's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks, including the first and or second games of the regular season. This is the third break of Farmer's career. In '99, he broke his right leg against Iowa State in the 6th game of the season. And then 4 games deep into last season, Farmer broke a run against Nebraska, was tackled, and then broke his left collarbone. There's the run right there. He missed the remainder of last year. So now the Tigers turn the helms over to one of 2 men. It looks as though, for now, that Darius Outlaw is that man. Outlaw completed 46% of his passes for 1,391 yards and 9 touchdowns in 10 games after taking over for Farmer. The other competitor now in position for the starting job is senior quarterback Jimmy Doherty. Doherty completed 49.8% of his passes for 1,304 yards and 4 touchdowns 2 years ago. Then he tore ligaments in his right elbow and missed all of last season. Physical examinations for the freshman football Tigers began today. About 30 Tigers were expected to report and will practice twice tomorrow and once Sunday. Veteran Tigers report on Tuesday. Mark McGuire retweaked his right knee last night against Atlanta and was held out of the Cards doubleheader against the Florida Marlins today. Game 1 in progress right now. The Cardinals leading Florida 6-5. That game actually now in the middle of the 7th inning. Mark McGuire, as you saw, not in the lineup due to that tweaked knee. The Royals and the Twins face off 19 times this season, 13 down, 6 to go. The Twinkies host a 3-game set beginning tonight. Minnesota leads the season series against Kansas City 8-5. On Sunday, Royals righty Chad Durbin threw his first complete game in a 9-3 win over Oakland. He hopes to do the same this evening, but Brad Radke hopes he does that too, because in all reality, everyone hopes to throw a complete game in every outing that they go out in, as long as they win, unless they're overly concerned with themselves, which just isn't right. I have no golf for you, I have no rugby for you, but I do have nothing but love for you guys. Jim and Xana.
Thanks, Bob. Male and one female made their first big debut this weekend. Already, the Cubs have opened their eyes and begun to slowly explore their new world. Oh, aren't they cute?
Yeah, they're cute.
Well, that's all we have today for you on NBC 8 News at 10. We'll send it over to Bob with the NBC 8 Sports Show.
Jana, thank you very much. Coming up on this breaking edition of the NBC 8 Sports Show. Another bad break for one Missouri football star, but the story doesn't stop there. The Cardinals hope to crack the standings in the wild card race against the Fish. The Royals just want to snap out of their Central Division slump in Minnesota. This local soccer team takes apart the competition in the name of a fallen teammate. We'll introduce you to the Blast. And Stan Utley hopes to break the bank this week for a worthy cause. We'll visit with the Pride of Columbia on the Buy.com tour. The NBC 8 Sports Show starts now.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the NBC 8 Sports Show. I'm Bob Ballou. Chris Trevino is on vacation, and we'll be back later this week, but I'll try and make that up to you as I'm joined by special guest and Columbia native golfer Stan Utley. We'll talk about Stan's 11th Rainbow House Golf Classic tomorrow, among other things. Plus, MU quarterback Kirk Farmer spoke out yesterday concerning his broken hand. More on the effects of that later. And we'll have the story of a Show Me State Games soccer team who dealt with a serious loss before the games began. But first, we'll start with some baseball. Mark McGuire is tied with Harmon Killebrew for 5th place on the home run list with 573 all time. He missed the prior 3 games after he tweaked his right knee. McGuire returned to the lineup today in the final game of a 4-game set with the Florida Marlins. And in the first, Florida again gets off to a good start. It's John Mabry, the solo home run off Dustin Hermanson, giving Florida the early 1-0 lead. In the third, Ryan Dempster, the liner into center, but who else? Jim Edmonds makes the amazing catch out in center, and that keeps the game close. 2-1 Florida in the 6th. And Andy Berg's base hit is going to bring home Kevin Miller because Jim Edmonds throws to 3 Florida Marlins standing at first base. That gives Florida the 3-1 lead. Then it's Armando Almanza striking out Mark McGuire. That's the 3rd strikeout of the game for McGuire. Florida wins this one today by a final of 5-3. There's Dempster's line for you right there. Even in the loss, the Cards' middle infield had a nice game. Fernando Vina, 3 for 4 with an RBI, as was Edgar Renteria. He was 3 for 4, and they also turned a double play. Mark McGuire was 0 for 4, and his average dropped to 194. The Cubs and the Dodgers, as the Cubs maintain their first-place lead in the National League Central. And it's Gary Sheffield in the bottom of the 3rd with 2 outs. The shot into the left field, gets down. It's a ground rule double. That brings home Paul LaDuca, 1-0 in favor of the Dodgers. Bottom of the 4th, Marquise Grissom, the solo shot into left. His 17th on the year gives the Dodgers the 2-0 lead. But we go to the 9th, 2-1, Sammy Sosa Sheish. That ball is gone. He ties the game with 2 outs in the 9th. That's where they stand right now, 2-2 in the 10th. Now's my time to jock the job that Mike Sweeney's done with Kansas City. He leads the Royals in batting average, home runs, RBIs, and runs, yet he had just 15 hits in 81's second half of the season at bats. That would change today, though, in Minnesota. Tony Muser somehow still not on the hot seat. Mark Quinn picking up for the Royals offense. He was 4 for 5 on the day. That brings home Raul Ibanez. It's 1-1. Nice play there by Doug Minkiewicz. And he gets to the bag, beating out Carlos Beltran, keeping the game tied at 1. But we're still in the 7th with 2 outs when Mike Sweeney steps to the plate. Gone. That is number 24 on the season. That gives Kansas City the 3-1 lead. And then in the 8th, it's Mike Sweeney again. That 3-run home run gives Kansas City the 8-2 lead. They beat Minnesota today by a final of 10-5. Sweeney had a day. 4 for 5, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, as well as scoring 2 runs. Mark Quinn was also 4 for 5 with 2 doubles and 2 RBIs. Paul Bird gets his 4th win as he went 6 innings and gave up just 1 earned run. Well, I can honestly say my favorite baseball player growing up was Kirby Puckett. I had all of his 1985 rookie baseball cards. Yeah, even the Donruss and the Fleer cards. Proud to say that because today Kirby Puckett was inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame. Puckett's 12-year career was ended because of glaucoma, but he had 207 homers and hit .317 for his career. Dave Winfield also inducted today, and with Puckett, he becomes the 36th player inducted in their first year of eligibility. Bill Mazeroski, 29 years before he was finally elected. Maz played his entire career in Pittsburgh and hit the Major League's first and only walk-off home run to win a World Series in a Game 7 in 1960 against the New York Yankees. Also inducted today, Negro League star Hilton Smith.
I was probably looking down right now and thinking about all those spankings she gave me for hitting balls through neighbors' windows and breaking lamps and breaking everything in the house. I want to tell Mom, well, Mom, I hope you can see now that it was worth it.
And I remember the scout, Donnie Williams. After they drafted, he was with the Padres. I asked him, I said, Donnie, what do you want me to do? He said, man, we want you to play every day. We want you to hit that ball and run. And so the rest is history. I chose baseball because to me, baseball is the best game of all.
Nobody had ever won 3 Brickyard 400s in the history of NASCAR, so of course when I start a story like that, you probably know what's coming. You just may not know who I'm talking about. It's the Brickyard 400. There's the trophy. Big crash in turn number 2. Andy Houston, Robert Presley, Mark Martin, and Matt Kenseth all involved. Look at who said duct tape and a little hammer doesn't do a car good. Well, it didn't for Mark Martin today, but Dave Blaney's, his car caught on fire. Then it's Jeff Gordon down the stretch. He wins the Brickyard 400, and that is the 3rd time he's done that, the first ever to do that.
It was our day. Everything went our way at the beginning. We didn't have a very good car, and we were stuck back there in traffic. And I know I was worrying the heck out of my crew chief because I was complaining an awful lot. But they made great adjustments. We got some track position, and things just started going our way from there.
Kansas City native Tom Pernice Jr. had won just once in his 10-year stay on the PGA Tour back at the 1999 Buick Open. If he were to do it again this week at the PGA International, he'd have to do it with a different style. Stableford style. That is 8 points for a double bogey, 5 for an eagle, 2 for a birdie. That was Charles Howe III. He didn't like that putt, so he just doesn't like the ball either, apparently. Throws it in the water. He finished at plus 25. That's good, though. Tom Pernice Jr., the birdie, takes the lead At plus 34, Sergio Garcia trying to respond. He knocks in the long putt. He stays at plus 30, but it's Tom Pernice Jr., the tap-in, giving him the win at plus 34. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be joined by Stan Utley in just a few minutes, but earlier tonight we caught up with former Mizzou golfer and current LPGA Tour pro Jennifer Feldot to talk about the Rainbow House Golf Classic.
I used to hold the ropes for this tournament when I played for Mizzou, so to now be inside the ropes is really a joy. The skins game is really a lot of fun because I never really play in that format, and I never get to see the guys, so that's really fun for me because typically, you know, I'm in one part of the country and the men are in the other part. I never get to meet any of the PGA or Buy.com Tour guys.
All right, so we'll have more on that in just a bit. Coming up on the NBC8 Sports Show, though, this soccer team from West Plains has a blast of motivation during this year's Show Me State games. And Buy.com and PGA Touring pro Stan Utley is getting mic'd up. He joins us for a lot of golf. We'll talk about it next on the NBC8 Sports Show.
The NBC8 Sports Show.
Back to the NBC8 Sports Show, and we are joined now by a man who has made quite a name for himself doing what many Americans wish they could do well. I know sometimes I can't. It's Buy.com and PGA Pro Tour and Columbia native Stan Utley. Stan, thanks so much for joining us late on a Sunday night.
All right.
Appreciate you being here. 3 PGA Tour events in July, as well as the Buy.com Tour this year. Tell us a little bit about where you are in your golf career right now.
Well, this year it's been kind of fun as of late because I've been playing a little bit of PGA Tour stuff, which is the place we all want to be. But mostly this year I'm exempt on the Buy.com, so I can play that schedule regular as I would like. Kind of in addition to playing some, I've also been doing some teaching and kind of filling in the gaps there and having some fun with helping other people.
What are you doing as far as your teaching goes right now?
I've done a little bit of golf schools locally. Kind of when my schedule allows, I'm available locally to give some lessons. But I've been teaching some PGA Tour players, which is kind of unique and kind of been different, and having some fun with that. And then trying to set up some outings this winter where I actually take people on a trip and have it be structured like a golf school. So I'm really anxious to get that going.
Is the travel tough for you when you go through and play on these events and when you go out and teach?
Travel for me is routine. So, I mean, it's, you know, life on the road is probably somewhat like people think and a little different. But it's not too bad. Now,
you turned pro in 1984. You won the 1989 Chattanooga Classic. Talk a little bit about your run from 84 till now on the tour, and just talk about the PGA Tour in general.
Right. Well, you know, the tour in general is the goal for everyone, and that's a place to be. And even now, it's more incentive than it ever was because the purses are so high. But I spent some time on the mini tours coming out of college, and got a great break with having a great week at the right time back in '89 in Chattanooga, and that put me on the tour, which I've played about 5 years out there, and it's been a while since I've been regular out there, so I'm kind of still hoping to be back out there soon.
Then you made the cut at the BC Open this year. How gratifying was that?
Well, it's been an interesting last couple months in that I love to make the cut, and I played fair up there, but my game has been right on the edge of where I've been expecting really good things, and so it's been better than maybe the last couple years, but I'm kind of waiting for that break and having a great tournament.
Let's turn our focus a little bit to the Rainbow House Golf Classic. That's tomorrow out at Country Club, Missouri. And if you would, you bring a lot of big-name PGA players out to this event. Who all is going to be out here tomorrow?
Well, we're really excited that we've got some guys that are coming in pretty high profile this year, and that Lee Jansen's in town, and it's his third visit, and so we're thrilled that he would make the effort to come back and join us. Joe Durant's coming in this year, which he's kind of the hot player on the tour this year. He's a guy that I've known a long time. Still, he's probably the best driver of the golf ball of anybody I've ever played with, and it seemed inevitable that he would have a great PGA Tour career, and this year he came out and he just was smoking. He won a couple tournaments, and then he had some more that he could have won, and so it was kind of funny that he told me last fall he would come, and then he had all this success early this year, and we hadn't really communicated very good, and I saw him at the Western Open about a month ago, and he said, "Now I'm coming to your deal," and I'm like, "Great," you know, because it's a special treat to have a guy like that coming in to Columbia. I hope a bunch of people come out and watch him tomorrow.
And Trevor Dodds and Brandel Chambly, a couple other namely players. How do you continue to bring those name players out to an event like this?
Well, now the event has happened long enough that, you know, there's probably 25 or 30 different guys that have come to this event. They all go away feeling special because people come out, visit with them. It's a fun day, and so if anything, this year I got long on players early. I was kind of nervous, but you know, it's nice that guys are willing to come in and help us out.
What is your motivation behind the whole creation of this event?
Well, originally, you know, I was motivated by observing Phil Bradley, who'd done a lot locally with, you know, the fact that he was a star here at Missouri and went on to a nice pro baseball career. And I just felt like that, you know, with the name recognition that I had, it would be nice to do something. And it's evolved into an event that the community really supports.
And what does it mean to you when the community is so supportive? It's not just the community, though. It's like the players that you bring in as well.
Right. Well, it's interesting in that, and it makes me feel special. You know, at the same time, I'm very aware of there's lots of people in the background. I get my name in the paper, and you ask me on your show. I'm not the guy doing all the hard work out there. You know, there's staff at the Rainbow House that work so hard, and lots of people that are behind the scenes that are really doing the hard work.
Did these guys tell you how important it is to them to show up at events like this and to be involved with things like this?
You know, we're all involved, and lots of guys are doing this around, and we're helping each other out, and that's what makes golf so great, is that, you know, it's an access to get people involved. Lots of people play golf, and so it's a vehicle to help these charity events.
And Lee Jansen, one of the guys you bring in, really probably the biggest name nationally, probably even more locally to golfers. He's won 2 U.S. Open titles. Just talk a little bit about him and what he brings to an event like this.
Well, the neat thing is that we're friends, you know, and our families are friends. And for a guy like that who has opportunities to play every week, you know, and opportunities usually mean financial opportunities along with that. You know, he comes in as my buddy, helps us out, and we appreciate that a lot.
Now, you bring in Lee Jansen, and you're going to play the Go for the Gold Skins game tomorrow. You've got 12 other people you're going to try to beat. Give us a little rundown of the format tomorrow.
Well, you know, the morning we're going to have a Pro-Am, and that's going to be a lot of fun, and that's where our major sponsors get to play with the pros. And one of the unique things about that is the pros are going to play 7 holes. It's a 13-hole Pro-Am, which I like because it doesn't take too long. But the pros are going to play 7 holes and fall back and play with another group. So each group gets to play with 2 pros. But in the afternoon, we're going to have a kids clinic, which we're excited. Kids are going to come up, line up on the driving range, and the pros are going to be out there to give these kids tips and lessons. So we really hope that folks will bring their kids out and be involved with the day. But the skins game part of it, I've kind of already made up the teams, and we're going to have a little Columbia, Missouri team, which is fun. Jason Schultz is playing this year for the first time. You know, he's a local player that played great at Missouri, and he's on the Buy.com tour this year. So in that we have 14 players in our event this year, I've asked John Gilchrist, the pro at Country Club Missouri. So John and Jason and I are going to be a 3-person team, and we're going to have 5 of those teams playing alternate shots. So we're going to try to take on the rest of the guys.
We wish you the best of luck tomorrow. Of course, much success in the event as well. Stan Utley, Buy.com Tour, PGA Tour
Thanks.
Pro, Columbia native. The Rainbow House Golf Classic tomorrow at Country Club Missouri. If you can do anything, make your way out to that tomorrow. Stan, thanks again. Coming up a little bit later on the NBC8 Sports Show, freshman football players aren't the only ones that get tested before heading out on the practice field.
I'm Justin Ford at the Show Me State Games, where you can always find the West Plains Blast soccer team. And this year, they have a patch on their jersey. We'll tell you what it means coming up.
Exclusively by Furniture World, only on NBC8 News. That's live weather coverage you can count on.
The West Plains Blast soccer team used this year's Show Me State Games as a way to come together after tragedy. NBC8's Justin Ford shows us the motivation behind their play.
For the West Plains Blast soccer team, the Show Me State Games is an annual tradition.
Show Me Games is kind of like our World Cup, and now that we're all separate, it's our chance to get together, come together, and play as a team again.
After playing together for 10 years, the games give the Blast a chance to reunite during their college days. But something more ignites the Blast this time. They wear it on their jerseys, and for the first time, they don't say Blast on 3.
Bob! We lost Bob last March.
He was killed in the car wreck.
He fell asleep at the wheel. We were in Rolla one weekend for St. Patty's, and he left the following morning to go fishing with his dad. Fell asleep in the morning.
We made a patch dedicated to Bob, and so it's like we still have our friend with us on the field.
Really close friends, just like all of us are. We beat and kick and knock each other around. You know, it's just great friends, good times.
Come on, Bobby!
He was, I call him comic relief almost, you know. He was always laid back and stuff, but when it was game time, he was there, and he had a lot of heart. He would do anything. He'd just get out there and play every game 110%, and he was just the wild one out there. He'd make it fun for sure.
Bobby brought a lot to the table with his personality and attitude, but when it came to remembering stories about Bobby at the Show Me State games, one came up again and again.
Yeah, Bobby was pretty infamous for his sayings that no one really understood. And
we probably had about 10, 12 people in the same room.
One time we were all laying there, and I don't even remember what was happening.
We look over at Bob, and we keep throwing food at him and hit him in the head, and he looks up at us, and he's like, tomorrow I'm going to be sharp as and just falls back asleep.
And it's classic Bobby. He would always do things like that.
Now the Blast would take the field without their igniter.
I think he will be there with us, actually. You know, he's watching us. He knows what's going on. It'll be quieter for sure, because he was very vocal on the field. But I think we'll get out there and play and have fun just because we know that he would want us to. We wanted to win again because he was big into winning, you know, that was his thing.
And they honored 14 by doing just that, winning 3 of their 4 games. They settled for the silver, but they carried gold on their sleeves. And perhaps one of the final pictures with the Blast together comes with one final message. Justin Ford, NBC 8 Sports, Columbia.
The team is bringing Bobby Bolander's medal back home to West Plains to give to Bobby's family. Before the Missouri freshman football players could practice, they had to get fitted for equipment and go through a battery of tests. But as NBC 8's Darren Wernig shows us, the players weren't the only ones who got tested before stepping onto the field.
They're not taping MU athletes, but rather each other. It's all part of the sports medicine department's orientation program.
They're going through their practical skills application so that the student athletic trainers can actually see and feel what type of treatment and what it does, what it's for, so that when they hook up an athlete, they'll know exactly what the athlete's going through.
While the 2 days of training is nothing new for the veterans, it can be a little much for some of the freshmen.
At first, there's so much information that they give you that you really can't grasp any of it. It all seems like a jumble of information. Then it all starts to come together and you learn more and more, and you're constantly learning more. Every single day I learn something new.
There are many reasons these students became trainers, but for a lot of them, the chance to stay around sports played a large role.
Once I had an injury and I went into a training room, and it was just kind of struck me as that, hey, this might be something I want to do.
My dad was a football coach, so I've always been around football. I got interested in athletic training, and I went to some summer camps, and that's how I became an athletic trainer.
The student help plays an important role in preventing injuries during a long and hard-hitting season.
Our athletic medical staff here, our student athletic trainers in particular, are vital in terms of making sure the players have enough water on the field and weighing in, weighing out before and after practice. Those are very important things because we like to monitor their weight loss.
But if an athlete does get hurt, you can count on the trainers to get them back on the field as quickly and safely as possible. Darren Wernig, NBC 8 Sports, Columbia.
And the sports medicine staff includes 9 certified trainers and 25 student trainers. They serve over 500 athletes in MU's 20 sports. We've got more to come on the NBC 8 Sports Show. The Missouri football team has an opening at the quarterback position. All the questions regarding Kirk Farmer's hand will be answered next.
For one, I was not at a nightclub when this happened. Second, I was not at an after bar when this happened. And third, I was not drinking.
Mike and Mike in the Morning. Dan Patrick, Tony Kornheiser. You get them all on ESPN Radio 1580. KTGR The Tiger. Home of the St. Louis Rams. The Kansas City Royals. The St. Louis Blues. Get it here on ESPN Radio 1580. KTGR The Tiger.
When you have attention to detail when it comes to your glass needs puts the A in Tolson. And even though Lucy can't spell, she knows the difference. Tolson Glass.
Ordinarily, do you ever really look at your tires? Do you check the tread? Do you look for anything out of the ordinary? When you shop for tires, do you just grab what's on sale? Ordinarily, that's probably right. That's why it's great to have tire specialists that are, well, out of the ordinary, like the tire experts at McKnight Tire and Auto Centers in Columbia and Jefferson City. Simply stated, they know tires. This isn't exactly what you'd call your ordinary fast-talking tire sale advertisement, but McKnight Tire is no ordinary tire and auto center.
Joe Mockins Ford, the #1 volume dealer in the state, is also the used vehicle center for the Midwest. Select from an over $7 million inventory. Our quality-checked Blue Oval certified pre-owned vehicles must pass a rigid 100-point inspection.
You buy a vehicle from Joe Mockins Ford, if it's not right, we will make it right. We guarantee total customer satisfaction.
You'll get the lowest, most competitive prices, special financing and leasing, plus top trade-in allowances. Come to Joe Mockins Ford, 1911 West Worley, or Mockins Automotive, Vanover Drive, Columbia.
Questions? Well, not really questions, but more like rumors had swirled about the MU football team over the 3 days following Kirk Farmer's mysterious injury. NBC8's Ben Arnet provides us with some answers.
It wasn't a barroom brawl or a late-night party gone horribly wrong. Simply stated, Kirk Farmer was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
A very intoxicated person was following us, and he came up behind and tackled me, and I did nothing but defend myself. And unfortunately, my hand was broken.
So no fight, no suspension, meaning no fault. Farmer also hopes that 4 to 6 week estimation is more towards the 4 side, meaning he'd miss no games.
I'll be back. Don't worry. By the time the season starts, if I miss the first game, that'll be it. But I'll be back in due time.
For the meantime, Mizzou has the largest of holes to fill. But in Gary Pinkel's system, there's no time to sulk, not even when the starting quarterback goes down before the season even starts.
We don't have pity parties or mourn. We don't do that around here. Nobody cares. There are no excuses. Nobody's going to asterisk and say, by the way, the starting quarterback got hurt and might miss the first. Nobody cares about those things.
And when they begin camp next weekend in Mexico, the Tigers will be ready with no excuses. Ben Arnet, NBC8 Sports, Columbia.
And the 2 men that look to replace Farmer for now, Darius Outlaw and Jimmy Doherty, the 2 returning men. Just to think, 1 week from now, we will be live in Mexico, Missouri, as the Missouri Tigers begin their 2001 season as they kick off camp. Gary Pinkel in his first season as coach. But tomorrow it's high school football as the high school football teams begin their preseason camps as well. We'll have updates from football teams across the area. That's going to do it for this edition of the NBC8 Sports Show. For everyone involved in this one, I'm Bob Ballou. Here's NBC8's Chuck Whitlock as he takes a look back at this week's Plays of the Week.
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
NBC8 Sports Show. Brought to you by Joe Mockins Ford, your #1 volume dealer in the state. Tolson Glass, your automotive glass specialist. Pro Cycle, 2600 Range Line, Columbia. McKnight Tire, they put you safely on the road. KTGR, the Tiger, 1580 AM. And by the Smokehouse.